All right, Max, so let me ask you a question. If your offensive coordinator is calling all the plays, but he has to call the plays out of the head coach's playbook, is he really calling the plays?
Well, here's first and foremost, an offensive coordinator works at the discretion of the head coach. That's not unusual, but many times when a new guy's brought in, he's expecting to add some little new wrinkle to it. Be honest with you, time will tell if in fact that really happens. Welcome to Game Day TV.
Hey everyone, I'm Jerry Young along with legendary coach Max Howell. We welcome you into this edition of Game Day TV. We've got a jam-packed show for you today. We're going to start off with reviewing the top games in segment one. So that ought to be real interesting, a lot of top games to review along with our highs and lows. And Max, that's become kind of popular. And maybe even a low might even be on the hot seat this week.
Well, we've got two or three out there that's going to qualify. I can assure you that. And we're going to try to bring you some reasons why. The score came out one way, but there's some reasons, I think.
We'll travel up to North Alabama. We're going to talk to a University of North Alabama fan for our Fan Blitz segment, along with a fan from Ole Miss. So we've covered Alabama and Auburn and Troy and Jacksonville State.
UAB.
And UAB. So now we're going across the border over into Mississippi to see what kind of crazed fans they have over there, and also up to University of North Alabama. We'll have that as well. We're going to talk some SEC football as well, just in the SEC, what to expect there. Then in our next segment, I'll take over as far as some high school scores. We'll have those for you, along with big games in the top 10 in some different classifications, and there were some whoppers, let me tell you, this week. I'll also do a new segment in high school for recruiting. We got some big name recruits coming up, Max. That's always important where they're going.
I'm telling you, you look around the South and Alabama's emerging as one of the top states as far as top recruits are concerned. Always a big battle in this state between Alabama and Auburn. Not necessarily who gets those, but who doesn't get them. I think more so than anywhere else. But I know I appreciate that. I spent about 15 years doing nothing but recruiting at the college level.
Well, recruiting a big deal, not only in Alabama, but you know, we got some Mississippi folks and some Georgia folks and some Florida folks dipping into our state now because we've got a lot of talent in high school. After the high school report, Kim Shera will have your game day weather for where you're going. This past weekend, it was obvious that we had some problems, had some games moved up to Birmingham and so forth from the big storm that came in, but we're not going to have that next week. Everything should be in good shape. We'll also review the top games coming up in college. Max, I have all that for you. And then, of course, Max, what's for supper?
Man, always a favorite segment for me, I know. Cool weather, good football weather coming up. Don't be surprised if we don't talk a little hot chili on the grill today.
People will be heading to the grocery store after you're watching this. Don't leave yet. Watch Game Day TV. We'll come back with our opening segment. Max will have you some college sports to talk about right here on Game Day TV.
You can travel all over and you won't find another town with our name or our frame of mind. So much to do, so much to see. It comes down to this, it's easy to see. There's just one in the world, positively. Tuscaloosa, the one and only.
I never in a million years thought that I would ever have to utilize a Ronald McDonald House. It meant the world that I was able to stay so close to her, and she was never alone. Thank you from the Chupkauskas family.
When you're in business, you need to stay as visible as possible. Have you ever thought of turning your vehicle into a marketing tool? Well, now you can with high-impact, full-color graphic vehicle wraps from Sundown Tint and Design. Turn your car or truck into a moving billboard to reach new customers all day, every day. From design to expert installation, Sundown Tint and Design is a vital tool in your marketing arsenal to keep your business in the public eye. Learn more at sunwraps.com or call them at 205-337-3691.
How do you show love? With the big things? The little things? The tough things? your everything. Show them you care. Alpha Insurance.
What an exciting Saturday and weekend of football in both high school and college, but nothing quite like college football and some of the big games around the SEC. We've got the highs and lows for you, and Coach, let's start with the lows first as we review.
I don't think anything any lower than what happened right here in this state this past weekend. All the hype, and I made the comment a couple of weeks ago that I'd been around this game a long time. I'd never seen a program where a coach and a program was actually by media hype spun out of the hot seat. And we talked about that a little bit last week, and you asked the question to us. If Gus Malzahn goes to Clemson and loses, does that put him right back on the hot seat? Well, let me look in the camera and say, yes, it did. I think there's without a doubt. And
I think it's because of how he lost.
Well, I was going to say it wasn't so much the fact is that they got beat by the number 3 team in the country, but the fact is there was little or no performance. Based on all the hype, we thought the new transfer quarterback would just do wonders for that program. We thought the new offensive coordinator would have his own reign and be able to run it. I didn't see a whole lot of difference, and I know there were reasons, and I heard Coach Malzahn's press conference after the game, and he hit on some of that, but a lot of that was kind of glossed over for what I call coach speak, and he's certain. But I'm going to just throw some stats at you and tell me how you win. This is from Auburn. Auburn scored 6 points inside the red zone twice, only 2 field goals, 13 first downs, only 38 yards rushing. The new quarterback that was supposed to be on the Heisman list, 79 yards. He was 13 out of 24 in passes. Total offense for Auburn Tigers, 117 yards, the lowest in the history of Gus Malzahn's offense. So I don't know where he blamed it on Chip Lindsey or he's going to take a little credit for that himself.
Well, Max, let's talk about the offensive line. I think, you're talking about sacks. What do you have, 11 sacks?
11 sacks.
You gotta look to that offensive line. I noticed in an interview they were very challenged after the game. I mean, and
they should have been.
So, but if you don't have time to throw, how do you know if you need to?
Well, here's the thing. The quarterback's sitting 6 or 7 yards. I don't care. I've drawn up too many of them, Jerry. You can get rid of the ball if you're quick enough. But you got to have the game plan set for that. My problem with the way the game evolved was a lack of preparation on paper for them to get ready to play. Look, you got 300-pounders on the offense and 300-pounders on the defense. I think the defense was a little quicker. But you know what? You go to zone blocking. You just block inside. You can run him to the outside. He's got time to throw. That never happened. I don't know. Again, I'll make a comment like I did to Coach Ray Goff when I was in Atlanta. Coach, I never been on the sideline. I never been in a staff meeting. I ain't never lost to some of those teams you lost to.
Right.
So the fact is if you do solid enough planning and looking, you can't depend on just one aspect of your game. I really believe the staff and the fans really thought that Jarrett Stidham was going to pull them out of oblivion. I thought he kept. But I'm going to tell you something that's missing, and we've seen it. We saw it with Nick Marshall. We saw it with Cam Newton. What could those two guys do that Jarrett Stidham can't do?
Everybody out there screaming, run.
He couldn't run.
That's right.
And he couldn't escape. I mean, he didn't have to run 50 yards.
Right.
How about just get out of the pocket and run to the corner?
Right.
He couldn't beat him to the corner. So, I mean, they got some work to do. Now, here's the other side. The positive side for Auburn is they play Mercer this week. Now, they'll look like a college against a high school team. And I expect that, and they better do that because down the road, guys, they got some lumps to take if they don't improve.
So we started out this show talking about the Auburn offense. Chip Lindsey, good friend of ours, I love Chip.
Yeah.
I know he's an offensive genius. I mean, there's no doubt. So we still got some unanswered questions there, though. Is Coach Malzahn really turning it over? I know that's been the talk of everybody since the weekend. So we'll find out, like you said, as we move forward.
Well, the reason is, Jerry, because that's happened before. The fact is that he was supposed to give it to Lashley a couple of years ago, and they'd get behind or what, and Coach Malzahn would take the playbook back, and he'd want to call the plays. That has to stop at some point in time. It's already proven that, he gets too caught up in the game itself to be thinking ahead. A good offensive and defensive coordinator, they aren't concerned about so much the play that's going on. They're looking at 2 and 3 plays down the road.
Right.
So if you can't do that, then you better go coach the kickers or somewhere else.
Well, and Gus had the chart in his hand the whole
Yes,
time.
he did.
Kept referring to it. If you turn it over, maybe you need to throw the chart away and let Chip take over.
He has a headset on, so he can hear everything that's going on.
Right.
He's hooked to both the offensive and defensive coordinator. He can hear the calls. But to have the chart to make reference to that, and you know he was talking to him.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We can sit here and pick it to pieces all day.
Well, and we pretty much have, and we'll do it again every week. Let's move on now to Arkansas. They make our lows list, and wow, you said TCU was going to be tough, but
I did, and I think I called it. I thought they'd win
Yeah.
that ball game. And Arkansas played reasonably well. Here's a couple of things that popped up. Austin Allen is probably one of the top 2-3 best quarterbacks in the league. He didn't have time to throw the ball. What did Patterson do? Patterson put 8 on the line and came after him. That's nothing unusual for Austin Allen. He took 35 sacks last year. Well, he took a couple of pretty good hits the other day. And I heard the commentator say, well, we don't know where he'll get up. Guys, I got news for you. That was nothing of what he took last year. He might be the toughest kid in the league. But, I don't want to say that Coach Bielema's offense is outdated. It won't work here. But I will say this. Having been around this league as long as I have, it's hard to recruit enough athletes at one school to run that style when every other school, high school in America, is running a read option. Right. Quarterbacks at 6-7 yards deep. The offensive linemen start from a 2-point stance and they run them off. They don't have to put their hand on the ground and knock them off a ball. That's almost a lost art. And rightly so. Part of it is because of head injuries and all the other things that we now know that's happened. But Coach Bielema is stubborn enough to stay with that style. His offensive coordinator is a guy that has been talking him into loosening it up a little bit. But guys, here's another thing. They've lost 3 starters in 2 weeks. And Arkansas doesn't have enough depth to lose 3 starters. They didn't play very well. They lose to Gary Patterson. But here's the other side, and I'll finish my comment on that ball game by saying this. If you don't know who Gary Patterson is, he's been at TCU 20 years, 3 as an assistant, 17 as a head coach. Out of the 17 years, 10 years out of that 17, he has won 10 or more ball games. Though that's not just a fly-by-night program sitting out there in Texas. So Arkansas's got to work. They're off this week. Guess who they got the next week? Boy, this will be exciting. Texas A&M. In Arkansas.
Well, you just led right into that because on our lows list again this week is Texas A&M, Max.
Well, Kevin Sumlin came under all. There's some positives that I know that they're working on out there, but there was some negatives that happened this past week. It was some letters sent to the family, but guys, I hate to say it, but that is the result of fandom, and what fans are. That's fanatics, in abbreviation for. So I think they got a little out of line by attacking him personally and his family and all that. Put that aside. His team did not play well. They they way ahead last week. We demoed that up pretty good. You look at the way UCLA came back and won. Look, guys, they were playing Nickel State. Now, Nickel State that's like, in my vernacular, 1AA. That's the next level down. They were tied with them going into the 4th quarter. They were lucky to come out and won 24-14 in that ball game. So, they've got some things inside. Here's a couple of things that you have to realize why people's upset at Texas A&M. They have the largest student body, 50,000 plus on campus. They have the largest budget. They expanded the stadium. They raised $400 million in 3 weeks to raise that. Nobody else has done that. Alabama can't do that. That's hundreds of other schools can't do it. They did it. They've got everything going. They're sitting in the most talent-rich state in America. And on top of that, their lead opponent for that recruiting base is the University of Texas, who has been down to 5 and 6 wins for the last 4 years. So they've not taken advantage of everything. Kevin Sumlin's got to do something to turn that program around, or there'll be a vacancy at that school next year.
Max just recovered his own fumble
How
there
about
when
that?
he dropped that pin.
Quick hands from my
That's
old
right.
man.
Hey, let's go ahead. Let's move on to Georgia now. They're on our highs list, and I know you've been eating crow a couple of weeks here, Max, but Georgia looks good.
I'm telling you, I'm going once again, as I did with Florida 2 weeks ago. Florida's back on that seat right now. Kirby Smart has done what it takes to build a program. But you have to understand, he worked for Nick Saban for 15 years. If he didn't learn something, at least he learned how to recruit and he learned how to hire coaches. I do have a little question about his offense, but we'll get into that down the road. He brought Mel Tucker as a defensive coordinator. The defense, contrary to Nick Chubb and Michelle and Fromm, the freshman quarterback, contrary to all that, they did reasonably well. Defense won that ball game. They win 20-19 on the road at Notre Dame. Here's the key nobody thought of. That stadium seats about 86,000. You know how many Georgia fans?
Yeah, bunch.
40,000. My
Yeah.
question is, where'd they get the tickets? Because those schools, I'd handled the tickets at a couple of schools. You don't get 7,500, 8,000 for your visitors. They picked up another 30 somewhere. I don't know what.
Well, you got to give it to Georgia fans for making
They
the
did.
effort
They
and
really did.
going to
They
South
have,
Bend.
that's the thing I see that's going on at Georgia right now, Jerry. Is the fact is that they've got everything going for them. They've Kirby's done the right thing. The fans love him. They follow him. He's had 2 great recruiting classes. I think they're the team now in the East that's going to emerge. I think they're better than Tennessee. Obviously, what we saw them out of Florida 2 weeks ago. We'll get a good read this coming weekend with Tennessee and Florida playing. I like where Georgia is right now, where they stand.
Another team that has a head coach that you and I have talked about and covered is Will Muschamp at South Carolina. And we've had some reservations about Muschamp, the way he handles himself on the sideline. Could he become a head coach?
Yeah.
You think this might be his year? He's got some good players.
I think he has, and I think it all started back with the quarterback that came into Opelika, Alabama, by the way, and drafted Jake Bentley. He's a kid that can play now. Here's the thing about him, that what Muschamp saw, academically a 4.0 plus student. He finished high school. We've heard a lot of the kids that come out at Christmas and enroll early. This kid came out in June, enrolled a whole. He was an 18-year-old, barely 18-year-old last year, just turned 19 and starting right now in the SEC and winning. They're 2-0 right now. They did a great job against Missouri this past week. Missouri, ran up 72 the week before, and I just read yesterday where I believe they had a coaching change on the defensive side at Missouri this weekend after their special team. Now, look, Bentley did a great job, but you got to give it to the special team. Same kid ran another 93-yard touchdown to open up the second half with it. They did a good job. They've coached well, and I told you my youngest daughter is a season ticket holder in South Carolina. I'm on the phone with her constantly. At the time, Will Muschamp had to win the fans over. He's done that. Now here's what's going to happen this week. They play Kentucky. Kentucky's on the same kind of roll. They're 2-0. They come in there. That's going to be in one of the games of the week coming up for next week.
All right, let's talk about Alabama now. We got them on the plus side, on the highs.
Here's
they
the thing.
Keep on rolling.
Yeah, here's the thing. I don't think anybody realized that. I think hats off to Nick Saban and his staff. They talked about the improvement for Jalen Hurts' passing game. He ain't got to worry about passing. He ran the ball 10 times for 154 yards. He had 280-something plus yards, 3 touchdowns for his total offense. He threw adequately, but they've got another quarterback behind him that they played in the second quarter that's going to do very well as a passer. Hurts is a man among boys. The second play, I believe, he went 58 yards or whatever for a touchdown. So now you got to account for a running quarterback. He's the second best runner in the backfield.
Right.
They're going to turn it and hand it off to all the big backs they got, but Hurts can take it and run it too. Hats off to them. They did. Here's the thing that was most impressive, though. As good as they are on the offensive side, and as good as they are winning, I think the rip came from Jeremy Pruitt, the defensive coordinator, when they let Fresno go down and kick a field goal. He huddled up and not only singled out the individual players, he ripped them as a team.
He did.
It reminded me a little bit of Coach Saban when he was getting on Lane Kiffin last year.
Yeah.
It worked. Whatever it did, it worked.
Well, whatever. All right, let's move on. Talk about Ole Miss just a second.
All right, you talk about a guy like Shea Patterson, and nobody had given him much credit this year. They started slow against Tennessee Martin this weekend, but the kid threw for 489 yards, set an all-time record at Ole Miss. He's going to surpass everything every week, it looks like. Anybody that's playing Ole Miss, defense is not good, offensive line is not good. If Patterson right now, I'm going to tell you, I could name 5 schools. If Patterson was a quarterback, they'd win a national championship. The kid is remarkable, got all kind of talent. Hats off to them. They go to California this week, have an off week, but then they get into the meat of the schedule. Got Alabama, Auburn. They got Alabama and Auburn and LSU coming up pretty much in a row after that. We'll find out really how good Ole Miss is.
All right, you want to stay tuned. Fan Blitz is coming up in our next segment. It'll be a lot of fun. We'll also talk about some other schools as well. Stay tuned. You're watching Game Day TV.
When you're in business, you need to stay as visible as possible. Have you ever thought of turning your vehicle into a marketing tool? Well, now you can with high-impact full-color graphic vehicle wraps from Sundown Tint and Design. Turn your car or truck into a moving billboard to reach new customers all day, every day. From design to expert installation, Sundown Tent and Design is a vital tool in your marketing arsenal to keep your business in the public eye. Learn more at sunwraps.com or call them at 205-337-3691.
Home. It's where you take your time. Build the future. Make your memories. Celebrate. Come home. Alpha Insurance.
You can travel all over and you won't find another town with our name or our frame of mind. So much to do, so much to see. It comes down to this, it's easy to see. There's just one in the world, positively. Tuscaloosa, the one and only.
Thank you.
I never in a million years thought that I would ever have to utilize a Ronald McDonald House. It meant the world that I was able to stay so close to her. And she was never alone. Thank you from the Chupkauskas family.
Hey everybody, welcome back into Game Day TV. I want to tell you about one of our great sponsors here on Game Day TV. That's Central State Bank. Central State Bank has offices all around the Shelby and Jefferson County area in central Alabama. Whether it's checking, loans, or mortgages, they've got you covered with full variety of personal and business accounts. Also, you can access them online and mobile banking. That'll make your life a lot easier there. You can deposit using Apple Pay, and you can live stream your bills with Bill Pay. Also, you need help, that's not a problem either. Just walk right into one of their many branches and you'll get personalized service with personalized attention. 100 years of honesty, 100 years of loyalty, and 100 years of friendship. That's Central State Bank. All right, Max, let's go to Fan Blitz now. It's one of our most favorite segments, and we're going to go up to the north part of the state. We actually have a UNA fan on the line, and that's Brian. Brian, you there?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
All right, buddy. What we're going to do is we're going to give you 60 seconds on the clock. We want to hear why UNA is the best college in America, okay? Here we go. Your time starts right now.
UNA is the best college in America. I bet you a lot of people did not know this. UNA, the University of North Alabama Lions, have the best winning percentage in the state of Alabama since 1990. That includes the University of Alabama Crimson Tide. I bet a lot of people didn't know that. They won 3 national championships, Division II national championships, 93, 94, and 1995. They played in the cold last year, in the snow and the 8-degree weather out in Kansas City last year, trying to win a national championship. Fell a little short, but hey, they got back to it. The Lions are headed to Division I next year. They'll be in the Big South Conference. It is a good time to be a UNA Lion. They produce winner after winner after winner. They had trophy, which is a Division II Heisman, so to speak. Had a runner-up last year in that, and I tell you what, if you haven't seen UNA play football, they are a fun team to watch. Chris Willis is the head coach. Bobby Wallace was their head coach for years and years, and I bet a lot of people also don't know that he's the one that recruited Bo Jackson to Auburn. So a lot of good things going on at UNA.
That's all you get, Brian. Hey, buddy, I know you want to keep on, and I appreciate it. There's a lot of good points you made right there. And a lot of.
I could go 10 minutes.
I know you can. Obviously you can, but I'm going to cut you off because I only got 60 seconds on the clock. Hey, thanks, Brian. We appreciate it. Thank you, sir. All right, well.
Very good.
Yeah,
Very
that
good.
was
And he's
great,
right.
man.
I was waiting for him to mention Bobby Wallace.
Yeah.
Bobby Wallace is the one that won 3 national championships at D2. And certainly the new coach, he retired, the new coach now has come in, and they're building now headed to Division I. So we'll get a chance to get a close look at a program on the move right away.
Okay, well, let's move on to Ole Miss now. On the phone, we have Craig, who is an Ole Miss fan, or claims to be. We're going to find out because we're going to give him 1 minute. Craig, are you there?
I am, Jerry.
All right, you got 1 minute to tell us how great Ole Miss is. You probably need more time than that, but we're going to do it. Here we go. Your 60 seconds starts right now.
All right, first of all, you got to start with quarterback Shea Patterson, and only, his fifth career start. He's already got 2 of the all-time passing performances, yards-wise, in the history of the school. We're talking about some guys who played quarterback there, had some pretty good numbers. Nope, Shea has 2, and yesterday, and of course Saturday, the biggest day ever yardage-wise against UT Martin. So first you got to start with him, and then A.J. Brown, best receiver in the country, guys. A.J., I don't know what it stands for. I'm going to say absolute juggernaut. He is the man. And so with Jefferson, with the rest of those receivers, which he found them pretty well the other day after they got in rhythm, those guys are going to be awesome and unstoppable offense. Can they play defense? That remains to be seen. They've got to get off to better starts on both sides of the ball. I think they're going to be okay if they can stop the run, guys.
All right, your time's up. Hey, Craig, that was great. It was great to hear from Ole Miss on a positive note, and that's great. You did a great job. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Craig.
Thank you.
All right, guys. There you go. We covered Ole Miss. Well, he's right.
Well, he
a lot
is
of
right
things
there.
said, and they've been negative in the news. It's
And
good
they
to
have,
hear that.
and no, they're in the process of finalizing all the NCAA problems they've got, and I hope it works out. This team is better than it was last year, Jerry. I can tell you that. I've seen them play now a couple of ball games. They've got a complete composite. The only thing that bothers me a little bit when they hit that tough SEC run, they don't have enough depth like they have for years, and the psychological thing. They don't have a bowl game to play for at the end of the year, and if NCAA really slams a hammer down, which is somewhat expected, that may affect them mentally before the end of the year.
Okay. Hey, let's go talk about Ohio State and Oklahoma just a minute. Get out of the SEC just a second.
Well, I can tell you Ohio State's in that same boat this morning.
Right.
They got the tail between their legs. Urban Meyer's done a great job in recruiting and all that. But I'm telling you, Oklahoma manhandled them. I mean, it was very close. It was a defensive struggle up to the third quarter, really. Then Oklahoma just blasted away. But here's the thing that I know that is a little, somewhat, I would say, classless. But the fact is, I've been in some of those games before, and the participants could care less about class. When the game was over, the Mayfield, the quarterback from Oklahoma, takes the flag to the middle of the Columbus, Ohio, the shoe, and puts it in the middle of the field. Now, buddy, that is a slap in the face for a program like Ohio State.
Well, we had to touch on them just a little bit because that's a big ball game, and it's, Ohio State, Oklahoma, they could end up at the end of the season with something to say about
it. They
could.
I'm in my poll this morning, Oklahoma replaced Ohio State in the Final Four.
Wow.
They're that good, I think.
All right, let's move back to the SEC now, Max, with Tennessee at Florida. Big game coming up. I guess it's a big game.
Yeah. Well, it is for those two.
That's right.
Tennessee had lost 11 straight to Florida. Tennessee got them last year in Knoxville. Here's the only thing that it still may be a weather concern. They're playing in Gainesville on Saturday.
Right.
But Florida hadn't and I don't think they've recovered from really the whipping they took against Michigan. Michigan just didn't beat them on the scoreboard, guys. They beat them up physically. And I think Jim McElwain had to go and look in the mirror and say, hey, what is wrong with our recruiting? And there's some gaps in that. I don't know about the quarterback. They've been really kind of vague about it. That again, Felipe Franks won the job, but after he couldn't perform too well. I don't think anybody on that roster could have performed very well against Michigan because they didn't have time to throw. The offensive front couldn't handle that big bunch at Michigan. So I think Tennessee, even though, by the way, here's one. Tennessee's played 2 ball games, 1-2. They scored 42 each in those 2 ball games and hadn't looked good. That's what's so bad about it. And I think that's where the concern comes, not only from the Tennessee fans, but from others around the state. Big ball game in their eyes right now. The stadium will be full at the Swamp if they get a chance to play it. Probably the Storm's moved out. They should have time to clean up Gainesville and be ready for the Vols.
Yeah, folks can get there. So are you thinking that one of these two teams may have some questions answered after this game?
Yeah, I think Tennessee will have to. I think if Tennessee keeps going, they're the thing that hurt them last year. They had 8 or 9 guys injured. They've escaped that so far, and I don't think Florida, the way they played against me, they're not physical enough to have caused any injuries on Tennessee. So as I look at it right now, I think it's going to be a close ball game. I'm still not real convinced that Butch Jones is the guy to lead that program, but he's still the head coach. So we'll see how that works out.
Okay, LSU and Mississippi State play this week. Mississippi State down, as you would think, but who knows? They've replaced a couple other teams in the SEC. As far as I'm concerned, LSU is going to be strong,
Two
too.
things that Mississippi State's got going for them, really, is Todd Grantham, the new defensive coordinator, came from Louisville, was at Georgia. He's been around a while. Gave a whole new dimension to the defense at Mississippi State. But if they line up and you don't know where two's coming or 11's coming. There was a coach that used to be at Ole Miss and around the SEC by the name of Joe Lee Dunn. Joe Lee was reckless, and I think Todd Graham learned the playbook from him. He'll line up 11 on the line. He may bring all 11 of them, but you don't know when he's going to do that. So I think that's a plus for Dan Mullen. The other side of that, Nick Fitzgerald has just blossomed. 6'5", 250 pounds that can run and throw. Led the league last year in a combination passing and running. So I think you got to watch for that. The other side of that, LSU playing a lot of young kids here. The week before, against this past week against Chattanooga, I think they maybe played 8 or 10 freshmen. The week before they played 17, started 6. So they building those 2s and 3s behind that in games that they can do that. They won't play that many this week. Adrian Key, the outside linebacker, maybe the best in the country, is back. He's been hurt. One of my best friends is coaches the defensive front there,
right.
And he and I've kind of jihad back and forth. LSU's coming to play. I like for LSU to go into Starkville and win that ball game, mainly because I think with Matt Canada on his offense, Geis is going to get the ball half a dozen times a quarter, to say the least. But Etlin has learned to throw the football. Play action, short passes out of the backfield. LSU's going to roll this week.
All right, let's finish up with Colorado State at Alabama. Alabama expected to roll big again this week.
I think they will. Colorado State, right now, Mike Bobo is the head football coach there. He came off the Georgia staff, played quarterback at Georgia. So he's very familiar with the SEC and very familiar with Alabama. He'll understand that, but they don't have enough, just don't have enough. I did a radio show early in the week and into Tuscaloosa, and we had a long talk about Alabama looking on their schedule from here out, unless some teams really improve, they're going to be double-digit favorites. And Saturday coming up against Colorado State will be no different. I think they'll play a lot of kids. They'll get a chance to play the 2s and 3s, I think, as early as the second quarter, as they did against Fresno. So I think Mike Bobo will make a representative of his team and his program out there. Mike Bobo is using that game right now and that national TV exposure to get him a big-time coaching job. Mike's a good coach, and he's very sound and very grounded. And he started, by the way, that's where Jim McElwain's at Florida came from. So that's the way Bobo got the job. So, it's all kind of tied in with who moves where and what kind of agent you got. That's the way it ends up.
All right, some huge games happened in the state of Alabama in high school this week, as we'll go over some of those. Some really surprises in a lot of people's mind as some top teams made a run for it in high school. We're also going to talk some recruiting, and we'll have that for you as we get ready here. We're going to talk about some Pinson Valley. We're going to talk about Mountain Brook and Thompson coming up this week as well, and Winona. So we'll cover all those in our high school report, as well as who's going where in the latest this week on recruiting. Thank you very much for watching. We'll be right back with more right here on Game Day TV.
The unexpected. The inevitable. The inconvenient. Life can be difficult. Make it a little easier. Alpha Insurance.
When you're in business, you need to stay as visible as possible. Have you ever thought of turning your vehicle into a marketing tool? Well, now you can with high-impact full-color graphic vehicle wraps from Sundown Tint and Design. Turn your car or truck into a moving billboard to reach new customers all day, every day. From design to expert installation, Sundown Tint and Design is a vital tool in your marketing arsenal to keep your business in the public eye. Learn more at sunwraps.com or call them at 205-337-3691. The trained staff at Sundown Tent Design are ready to work for you. Whether you're an individual looking for window tint or a business needing a vehicle wrap, Sundown has you covered. With high-impact full-color graphic design and expert in-house installation, they have the know-how to turn your car or truck into a moving billboard all day, every day. Contact them now to schedule a free design consultation. From window tinting to full vehicle wraps, Sundown Tint and Design is the only place to go. Visit them today at sundownwraps.com or call 205-337-3691.
You can travel all over and you won't find another town with our name or our frame of mind. So much to do, so much to see. It comes down to this, it's easy to see. There's just one in the world, positively. Tuscaloosa, the one and only.
Thank you.
I never in a million years thought that I would ever have to utilize a Ronald McDonald House. It meant the world that I was able to stay so close to her, and she was never alone. Thank you from the Chupkauskas family.
Welcome back into Game Day, everyone. As we get into the high school report this week, Max, a lot of big games in the high school. Let's go ahead and start with 5A, though, as we'll move there. We put the top 10 up there on your screen in 5A. Here's how they fared. Number 10, Central of Clay County, they won. They beat Valley. Pleasant Grove won. May Jemison in 8th, they won as well. Greenville was off at number 7. They didn't play this week. Winona continues to roll as they beat George Bates and Woodlawn 38-12. They'll play Briarwood Christian this coming week. That's a huge ball game coming up for them. Beauregard, they were off again this week as well. Carroll out of Ozark, Alabama, they won. They beat Charles Henderson 10-3. Alexandria won. St. Paul's continued their winning ways, and Briarwood Christian moves in to the number 1 slot. Fred Yancey's got the Lions playing great. They beat Moody 35-14, and as I mentioned, they will be moving on to play Winona. That'll be a great ball game as well. And now we'll move on to 6A now. That's your 5A report. Moving on to 6A. Jackson Olin comes in at number 10. They were off. They play Homewood this coming week, so that'll be a good ball game. Daphne won. They beat Saraland. Spanish Fort beat Gulf Shores. Wetumpka beat Chelsea as they just continue to roll. They've got smoke down there in the running in the backfield.
They smoke some people too, buddy.
He's still smoking. He's winning. They're 2-0. Opelika, Caleb Ross comes into Opelika as a head coach. They beat Carver Montgomery 17-3. Ramsey gets back on their winning ways. They knock off Shades Valley 22-14. Reuben Nelson Jr., the coach there, one of my favorite coaches in the state of Alabama, doing a great job getting the defending state champs back on their winning ways. Oxford, they beat Brewer. Pinson Valley, Pat Nix, along with his son Bo Nix, the quarterback, they put it on Minor 28-8 as they continue to roll. The big game coming up for them is Clay Chalkville. They play it at Clay Chalkville, one of the biggest rivalries in the state. Pat Nix knows how to play in big games. He knows how to play in rivalries. He knows how to beat his rival, as he did several years ago. Can his son step up and do it against Clay Chalkville?
Well, I think, from everything I've read, that if I'm Auburn recruiting, I wouldn't sit back and count on him going to Auburn yet. I mean, there's some things going on at Auburn that you might need to reassess yourself. And I think we saw, and the reason I say that is Peyton Manning went through the exact same thing with Ole Miss because Archie played there, his dad.
Right.
Where did he go? Tennessee. Did he become the greatest player ever played at Tennessee? That might fit in the same category, Jerry.
Yeah, there's another one kind of like that too. We'll talk about it. Blunt in number 2 position on 6A poll. They beat Baldwin County, and Jeremy Perkins and the Austin Black Bears up in Decatur, they beat arch rival Decatur 49-0. So they roll big. They'll play Hazel Green next week. Now let's move on to 7A and our 7A report. This couldn't get any better, any tighter. This is just the best 7A lineup that I've ever seen. Baker, they lose. They're number 10, Danny Smith. They lost to Theodore 26-14, so they'll drop out of the top 10. Mountain Brook lost to Hoover. They're in ninth. They'll probably drop out as well, but they didn't lose by much, 31-21. We knew Hoover was going to play them very, very well. Adam Weingarten at Auburn. They lost to Central of Phoenix City. Now, that was another huge ball game, Max.
Yep.
Central Phoenix City, they move up to number 1, as you see there, but they lost 34-28, so it wasn't a big margin. Auburn's got a good football team, but Central Phoenix City,
They might be as good as it is
we're going to talk about these top 4 teams coming up here. Sean Rainey replaced Chip Lindsey, as we've talked about many times already on this show at Auburn. Sean Rainey, the new head coach for Spain Park. Patrick Kellogg, the AD there, 2 great guys. They beat Vestavia 33-14. Spain Park, another rivalry game. They're going to have Hoover next week. They beat them last year twice. Let's see what they can do this year. James Clemens comes in at 6. Wade Waltrip, they lost in.
Was that the surprise game of the week? Might be the year.
Maybe the year. I think
know,
you're
that
right,
was
Max.
unbelievable.
Bob Jones and James Clemens.
Yeah.
Very similar to Hoover playing Spain Park. We know the comparisons all around the state. The score 42 to I don't remember the exact score, but they hung a bunch of points on them.
Yeah, they scored 40.
Yeah, 40-14. So
right.
it wasn't just the fact that Kevin Rose took Bob Jones in there and beat the Jets. It's the way he beat them, the way he put the points up. They were 0-2 coming into that game. But if you'll remember on last week's show, I said that's one of those games like Auburn, Alabama, you just throw the records out the window. Everybody's going to play strong. So congratulations to Kevin Rose and the Bob Jones Patriots up there as they win. Okay, McGill-Tulane, they won. They beat Murphy. And now we get into, I think there's 5 teams in the state. I really do. That's going to be hard to deal with. Hewitt-Trussville, Josh Floyd. We watched that ball game. Gadsden City won it last year on a great pass play with a couple of minutes to go. You know Hewitt-Trussville wanted revenge. They got it, but still Gadsden City played them tough, 38-24. Great ball team in Hewitt-Trussville.
You know, you go back and take a look, and I've just noticed that top 5, 3 of those in the North Alabama portion. I know those guys in South Alabama are ready to have something to say about that, but they hadn't stepped up yet. This is where we are right now, and hats off to those top 4 teams.
Yeah, McGill-Tulane down there in Mobile, Max, they still got something to say.
But they lost like 20 players off that last year team.
And they just barely got by Murphy 21-14 this week. So you got to lean toward, well, are they as good as usual? But we're going to find out. But one thing is for sure, Hewitt-Trussville is great. Now, Thompson and Mark Freeman, you and I, we had a little visit with Coach Mark Freeman on this past week. He knows his X's and O's.
Very entertaining. It doesn't take long in a discussion with a guy like Coach Freeman to know that you know why he's where he is, and you know what his record is. You understand why, Jerry. He's almost a complete package when it comes to conversation. And if he can talk with 2 guys like us about football or around the program, think just what he does, how he talks to his kids and talks to his assistant coaches.
Well, when you and I were sitting there, Max, I kind of felt like the kid. You and he were talking X's and O's, which is what coaches do. I was kind of blown away because y'all were talking about on the A gap, B gap, the button hook, all this stuff. I didn't even know what you were talking about, but you know, as a former coach, he knows exactly
Jerry,
what he's
doing. Code. See, that's
right.
That's code conversation, so nobody can understand.
Right. You were trying to get me out of the room, I guess. Okay, but anyway, Thompson, they went and rolled over Tuscaloosa 63-22. They play Mountain Brook. That's where we'll be this week. I'll be attending that game, so we'll have some coverage for you on Game Day TV next week as well, and I'll be doing something for our Alabaster Living Facebook page, so you might want to click over there on Facebook and see that, which, by the way, I'll get to Facebook in just a minute, but don't let me forget to talk about Facebook. Hoover, they beat Mountain Brook, as we said, and they go into Spain Park. That's already covered. And Central Phoenix City, Jamie Dubose beat Auburn. They go down to Florida, to Kathleen, Florida. So I don't know the situation and how that's going to work out. Maybe they might move the game up to Central. We'll see, or they may cancel it altogether, but we'll see how that goes. But one thing's for sure, Central Phoenix City got some players.
They do, and knowing from what I know about Jamie Dubose in the program he's got going right now, he'll line up and play those guys anywhere. I mean, they may play in Pensacola, may play in New Orleans or Nashville. Doesn't matter to him. Right. They line up to play football.
Let's stay on Central Phoenix City just a minute. They have a wide receiver down there by the name of Justin Ross.
Might be the best in the nation.
Well,
he's
he's rated like number 5, I think, in the nation,
you're right.
overall player. So he quite possibly, he's being recruited heavily as we move into our recruiting report. Just want to let you know, he hasn't made a decision yet. He's talking to a lot of folks. But just this past game, he had 5 catches for 52 yards. He rushed the ball twice for 16 yards, and he had 2 punts returned for 24 yards as they beat Auburn 34-28. So he had a big hand in that. But
He's a complete player.
He
Jerry.
is.
He is.
He's big, fast, strong. And I remember you telling me one time about Deion Sanders, how he could make a cut and actually tear up a pair of cleats.
Exactly right.
That his ankle torque was so strong that the glue on the cleat couldn't hold it on. That's the way I look at this Justin Ross. I think he's that kind of player.
He's a big, strong kid at every major school throwing the football right now. They covet guys like that because here's the thing: you can't coach size and you can't coach speed. You can do technique and all the skill-related positions that you work with a kid on. But the 2 things that he's got, just like some of the great ones right now in the country that have gone on to the NFL, this guy fits the mold.
All right, let's move to Hoover now. And where are some of these players going from Hoover? You know, they're like a factory. They just keep producing D1 players every single year. This year it's Cedric Jackson and George Pickens. Cedric Jackson, by the way, had 8 catches for 100 yards and 5 TDs this past week. So
They found a gap in that defense.
yeah, and that may be another receiver. You know, we talk about Ross, but Jackson is very good as well. George Pickens, they both have already committed to Auburn, so Auburn's going to get a couple of great players off of the Hoover Buck team. Mountain Brook, we've talked about Harold Joyner last week. The interesting thing about him, this past week he had 21 carries for 131 yards and also 10 yards receiving. So that's a good solid numbers against Hoover. Here's the interesting thing. He was invited to the Auburn Clemson game this past weekend as a guest of, guess who? Clemson. Okay?
I'm going to tell you, you can't take it away from Dabo Swinney. If you watch that football team play, guys, those kids just didn't volunteer to go to Clemson. Trust me.
That's right.
They were recruited hard. I think this is another perfect example.
Well, a lot of people think, Joyner, of course, has Michigan State on his list, and we know Auburn's going after him. So good move by Dabo to come down and invite him. He picked the perfect game. If nothing else, beating Auburn in that game might have got him a very good running back. Hillcrest Tuscaloosa, we haven't talked about them much this year. They've got a player by the name of Jaquez Jones. And the interesting thing, he's a 3-star player. He's 6 foot, 225 pounds. He had Tennessee, Mississippi State on his list. They were recruiting. But the third team that was recruiting him is Ole Miss.
They need a running back.
Well,
I hope that's what he plays.
Yeah, I know. Isn't it a little interesting, though? I mean, I know that the recruiting keeps going on, but all the turmoil at Ole Miss.
That's true.
They still come over here to Alabama.
Yeah, they can't quit, Jerry. That's the thing. Having sit in that office before, it's hard enough to recruit to the 2 Mississippi schools, if everything's going well for you. But the fact is, with all the cloud that's hanging over the program, hats off to them for stepping out and saying, hey, we're going after some of the top players, wherever they are, to try to get them to come. The end result with Ole Miss is going to come down in the next 30 to 60 days. We don't know what it is. We know that they're there today or tomorrow trying to resolve their problems, but it's going to take another 30 days to get it done. I don't know where they stand. All I can tell you is they're not bad right now. And you let them, if they can get out from under this cloud of the NCAA and keep recruiting, they'll end up being pretty good.
Well, he joins 3 other players from the state of Alabama that's committed to Ole Miss this year. That would be Alan Love of Huffman. He's going to Ole Miss. Kadarian Hill from Eufaula. Now, talking about going down, you can't get there from here. I mean, Eufaula's just kind of there, and you got to turn.
And it's on the other side of the lake.
That's right. You got to go somewhere else to get to Eufaula. But anyway, they went down there. He's a defensive lineman and a good one. And then defensive back, which is really a safety, is where he's shining. Jonathan Hest out of Vestavia Hills. So the Rebel stays with the Rebels, and he goes to Ole Miss. Hewitt Trustful, another great team. We can talk about recruits from there. as well. Offensive lineman Pierce Quick seems to be, in my opinion, the best lineman.
What a
in the
great
state.
name for a lineman.
I'm
Quick.
Quick.
He needs to be.
That's right. Got Smoke down at Wetumpka. You got Quick up here at Hewitt-Trussville. Quick is rated number 44 in the nation, overall pick. He's committed to Alabama. So Alabama's getting a great offensive lineman there. Let me tell you the interesting story to me that's coming up with Hewitt-Trussville, and that's the quarterback Paul Tyson. Everybody knows he's a great grandson of Bear Bryant. He's 6'4", 210 pounds. So he's in that mode of the new style quarterback that's got some size on him. He's being recruited by USC, Oregon, Kentucky, Pitt, North Carolina State, Duke, Army, and Alabama, and one other school, which happens to be kind of interesting because it's where Rhett Lashley went to, which is UConn.
Oh, UConn, yeah, Connecticut.
Connecticut, yeah. So isn't it funny that he's got them on his list? Rhett Lashley knows what kind of player he is, so he's come down there.
That's that personal relationship that goes with recruiting.
That's right. Want to mention Asa Martin, a running back at Austin, the Black Bears. He rushed for 188 yards and 2 TDs against Decatur in a 49-0 win, and he's committed to Auburn. And also Saraland's Jack West. He's a quarterback. He went 25 for 30 for 192 yards. But the interesting thing there is not only did they lose to Daphne after those numbers, but he went 15 for 15 in the second half. He's got a very accurate arm, and he's uncommitted. So that's your high school report for this week, as we hope we covered some of them and some recruiting information as well. We'll move on now to Game Day TV as we'll come back with more. Thanks for watching. You're watching Game Day TV.
How do you show love? With the big things? The little things? The tough things? Your everything. Show them you care. Alpha Insurance.
You can travel all over and you won't find another town with our name or our frame of mind. So much to do, so much to see. It comes down to this, it's easy to see. There's just one in the world, positively. Tuscaloosa, the one and only.
When you're in business, you need to stay as visible as possible. Have you ever thought of turning your vehicle into a marketing tool? Well, now you can with high-impact full-color graphic vehicle wraps from Sundown Tint and Design. Turn your car or truck into a moving billboard to reach new customers all day, every day. From design to expert installation, Sundown Tint and Design is a vital tool in your marketing arsenal to keep your business in the public eye. Learn more at sunwraps.com or call them at 205-337-3691.
Thank you.
I never in a million years thought that I would ever have to utilize a Ronald McDonald House. It meant the world that I was able to stay so close to her, and she was never alone. Thank you from the Chapkauskas family.
Welcome back into the final segment of Game Day TV for this week. We appreciate you watching. We thank you. By the way, I want to mention that you can watch us on Facebook as well as ACN and other outlets around the state of Alabama and Mississippi. You can watch us on Facebook by going to Ask Game Day TV. Just click on the link right there to our YouTube channel, and you can watch us anytime. Also, I'd like to tell you about Central State Bank. Central State Bank is one of our sponsors here on Game Day TV. They have checking, loans, and mortgages, and they have you covered in all of that. They offer a full variety of personal and business accounts, so whatever you need they have you covered. You can get access to online and mobile banking, and you know now that you can make a deposit with your phone by using Apple Pay, or you can go and streamline your bills with Bill Pay. you need help, you don't like the handling it online, you can just walk right into one of their many locations, and they have personalized bankers and loan officers standing by to serve you as well. Central State Bank celebrating 100 years of honesty and loyalty and integrity here in Central Alabama. Okay, Max, let's move on now to Kim Shera. She's in our Game Day Weather studio. She'll have your Game Day Weather report for where you're going this weekend.
This week's weather starts off a little crazy because of Irma, but ends with us putting our umbrellas away and ready for a beautiful weekend. The great weather comes back just in time for Friday night football and Saturday's college games. Friday night, North Alabama does have a 30% chance of rain, but 0% chance for all other areas of the state. Highs in the 90s and lows in the 70s, so it should be really pleasant across Alabama. We head into Saturday with great tailgating weather, so get those grills ready and make that dip you've been wanting to try. UAB plays at Legion Field this Saturday with a high of 86 and a low of 65, 0% chance of rain. This is sure to make for another amazing turnout in support of the Blazers. Auburn plays on the Plains with a 0% chance of rain and a high in the 80s and lows in the 60s. It'll be mostly sunny and pleasant. Hopefully, this week's game will be as pleasant for the Tigers as the weather. Bama plays at home with highs in the 80s and lows around 65. We'll be able to show these Colorado folks what beautiful Alabama weather is all about. That's it for your Game Day weather. Be sure to shop Helena Mercantile for their great collection of fall clothes. See you next week on Game Day TV. Back to Max and Jerry.
Kim Shera does a great job in our weather center. We thank her every week for handling and letting you know actually what's going to happen this weekend wherever you're going, whether it be high school or college. Max, let's get into big games coming up here. Let's talk about who's going to play who this coming Saturday.
Well, you know, we covered the three already. In the SEC, Florida and Tennessee in Gainesville is going to be a huge one. Colorado State comes to Alabama is one, but one I want to really pay attention to is LSU and Mississippi State, mainly because LSU's new program, new coach and all there, and of course Mississippi State on the rise, it certainly appears there. But there are a couple other games I want to touch on outside the SEC. One is Clemson and Louisville. Louisville's got Lamar Jackson, who his stats this past weekend, Jerry, were off the chart. 525 yards, 800 yards in 2 ball games already this year. He's got to emerge as a leading candidate for the Heisman. He won it a year or so ago, but I think he's going to be back. That's one, Clemson and Louisville. And the other one, FSU at Miami, is going to be a huge ball game for FSU.
And whether they can play that or not, still at airtime is not yet to be determined.
It depends on how much damage was in the Miami area. We don't know that yet, but the fact is that'll be a good football game. I like FSU in that one. Mark Richt's still building that program there. But right now, Jimbo Fisher's trying to get FSU back after the loss to Alabama back in the national hunt.
All right, let's move on. Auburn gets well this week, you think?
They play Mercer, you know, and
they correct some mistakes.
They got the correction. They'll look like a different football team. I don't think there's any doubt. South Carolina's got Kentucky coming to town, another big SEC game. I like South Carolina. They're at home. I think they get that one as well.
All right, folks, this week has been the week of 9/11. We never forget that. I think it's 13 years, if I remember correctly. I think that's what it is, but just want to always let our first responders know that we support you and we appreciate everything that you do. And it's always on a week like this, Max, where we remember. But 9/11, a big thing for this country this past week.
Yeah, and it's one of those events everybody remembers where they were. I was on the air in Atlanta, Georgia, doing radio and was interrupted by what? And, of course, our first response was, you know, some idiot flew a plane in a building. That was the first thing before we knew what it was.
Also, this week it's been horrible weather the last couple of weeks all over the country, so our thoughts and prayers with everyone in Florida and Georgia, South Carolina, and also still with Texas as they're recovering from a whole lot. So a lot of good effort. It shows the true kindness and humanity of the United States and all the volunteers that's happened. All right, Max, everybody's got to eat. Everybody's got to eat. They may not eat quite as good as you can cook, but hey, Max, this week, what's for supper?
Well, you know, I mentioned early on the cool weather is football season. We all understand that. And I go to the grill most of the time, and I did this time. And if people want to know, I cooked a big old pot of chili. And I do that I cook the meat on the grill is what I do. And you do that on a regular basis. I don't use just crumbled hamburger. I use deer meat in mine. And that's a little bit, and I'll drop a slice or two of bacon to give it a little bit more flavor. in there. But we don't traditional. We'll have the beans and the green peppers and the onions, garlic and tomatoes. We put that, after we put it all together, mix it, I take it off the grill and put it in a crock pot. Turn it on low, and I'm going to cook it about 4 to 5 hours. Let it simmer good. I'm telling you, it'll just, it'll make your tongue slap your face. It's just absolutely great. On the side, we have a coleslaw base, and everybody knows I'll do a kind of a vinegar, cayenne pepper coleslaw. Jalapeno cornbread. You know I'm going to eat the hot stuff without a doubt. We're going to wash all that down with a big old pitcher of sweet iced tea. For dessert, apple cobbler right from the oven with homemade ice cream on top.
That's this edition of Game Day TV. If you're not hungry now, you might want to check your pulse. We'll see you next week. Thanks for watching, everybody, right here on Game Day TV.